When we feel good, we serve. When we don't feel good, we can't serve. The reality is we are a mind, we are a body, we are a spirit. People come to me because they want their body to change. In order to change the physical body, we have to understand the physical body, what the potential of your physical body is. You have to nurture the elements of your body. So I think in conventional, they kind of look at the symptoms and treat the symptoms. And in root cause, we look at what could be contributing and causing the symptoms. But then we are going to add support that actually target the root rather than the symptom. We think kids are more resilient than they are. And when their immune systems are crying out, when they're getting sick consistently, that needs addressed. If a pathway for vitamin D is broken and you're putting more vitamin D in, you're stressing the system. It's like you're adding water to a full bucket. There's some trauma related to restriction. Taking trans fats or ultra processed food out of the body that wasn't meant for human consumption in the first place. You're giving them antibiotics and you don't know if they have a bacterial infection, but you're wondering if clay in your bath is safe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Gut Check podcast. Today I have a guest that I've wanted to interview for a long time, Cara. She's an integrative nutritionist, but we talk about so much more than just nutrition. We talk about our spiritual life, emotional life, how that impacts our health and our health goals. We talk about family. She has 4 beautiful children and just great insights as a parent. And really, we dive into Ayurvedic medicine and how we should be treating our body as a temple. There's a ton to this episode that I think you're going to find so valuable. So let us know what you think. Like the video, comment, share it with your friends, and we can't wait to hear your feedback. Cara, thank you for being here with us. And let's just start by diving into your background.
Yeah, I'm always going to just say I'm a nutritionist first and foremost, just because that's what led me to this space. But now I am a root cause practitioner and I am an integrative health practitioner. And so I definitely can look at the body from different aspects, different types of lab testing and whatnot, but also just physical signs. And I think the longer you're in this business, the longer you can just take a look at somebody and you can kind of see what's going on. I started my practice in nutrition. I always joke that it was like the second I got married, I felt like I had the financial stability to just start my own thing. But it came from wanting to pursue a life of performance nutrition. So I was a collegiate athlete, and in those days, early 2000s, there wasn't a ton of support around college athletes. There wasn't like nutritionists on staff. Now they have, doctors and nutritionists and all kinds of people on staff to guide. It was just like a one size fits all. And I always ended up sick. So I always ended up sick in playoff season, which was very frustrating because I was a 4-year starter. And then before that, even I had some like adolescent stuff that was, as I got older and started to understand the body, I realized was super out of the norm. Like I had shingles at 14 or 13. I had chronic hives from 8 until honestly like 32.
Jeez.
So major histamine issues, major adrenal issues. So I started to take this feel good approach as a high schooler. I started to only eat what felt good. And I used to tell my parents, like, when I eat a bagel, I feel like blah, 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 blah. When I eat the muffin from that restaurant, I feel blah, 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 blah. And so I started to kind of pare back and eat more of like a fruit, veggie, meat approach. In Ohio, growing up in Ohio, you don't get the Mediterranean and the seafood and like hummus. You don't get that. You don't even get guacamole. Okay. So you're on a very limited, but I knew I felt good eating nuts and seeds. And so I was always just trying to like pursue a higher level health. When I went to college and they were like, drink Gatorade. I was like, but it doesn't feel good. Like, I don't like how I feel when I drink Gatorade. My teeth feel weird. Like I always had this extra sense of like things didn't make me feel right. And so after college, of course, I come out with a mass comm degree because my coach told me we don't really have time to have science majors. So we're just going to do like broadcast because you'll be really good at that, which is fine. It's nice to have a broadcast background when you have a media platform. So
it worked well in hindsight.
It worked well. And then I had to pay for my education after that. I pursued nutrition first and foremost. And then also I was struggling a little bit with an eating disorder.
Yeah.
So after my identity crisis of lifelong athlete to regular everyday person who still wanted energy to perform on a daily basis kind of led me down this rabbit hole of control.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit more like orthorexia than anything,
Mm-hmm.
mainstream. Um, just controlling everything I ate, how much exercise I did, doing all the wrong exercises, thinking of it from a calories in, calories out standpoint. Like, from a Western society, we just look at numbers way more
Right.
than we are intuitive. And
Yeah.
so I started to flip the script on myself, like going back to how things made me feel. Like that was
Yeah.
too much running, that was too much exercise. And so when I got my first certification, I actually took it to all the sororities
Yeah.
in Southern California. So I kind of started in Long Beach and then Chapman and then UCI. And I developed this philosophy of like living your everyday life with energy.
Yeah.
And it's still the philosophy that I go by today. And I went and did free talks to all of the sororities that wanted them. I started boot camps for them. I taught them how to grocery shop on budgets and also just like making food without kitchens and all of that stuff because it was where I was struggling. Kind of like you
Yeah.
said, you developed a product for yourself.
Yep.
I developed a program for myself.
That's so cool. What year was that you were doing all that on the college campuses?
2007.
So it was also such a good time to build on social media and everything, right? Because it was just
Yeah.
kind of starting, right? That I
Mhm.
always talk about that in parallel to product companies building on
Mhm.
Instagram, et cetera, because it was just this like window of time when
Mhm.
it was really cool. Not that it's not great now; it's just different. It's way different.
It feels saturated. It feels intimidating now. It
So
wasn't then.
one of the things that you talked about, in the description of your work, which is kind of a buzzword now and not in a bad way, but there's this idea of root cause, right?
Mhm.
How would you just describe a root cause practitioner, a root cause dietitian versus more of a standard physician?
So I think in conventional, they kind of look at the symptoms and treat the symptoms.
Right.
And in root cause, we look at what could be contributing and causing the symptoms.
Yeah.
And we look at that from a lab perspective. So
Mhm.
obviously, they tell us their symptoms. We always want to know what's going on. Like, what are the 5 biggest health complaints? But then we are going to add support that actually target the root rather than the symptom.
Yep.
So it seems like counterintuitive in the culture we grow up in.
So then in your feel good way, obviously shout out the background behind you here, and the feel good philosophy. Walk us through that. What is the feel good way? What is the feel good philosophy that you develop?
Yeah, when I developed this, like I said, it was for myself,
Mhm.
but it was also with the credentials and the education that I was
Yeah.
undergoing, Masters of Science and Nutrition and some other certifications, but also for women. So
Mhm.
the focus for my practice has always been on women. I always say that men are the innocent bystanders. They don't even know what they're doing. Like they're just being given the philosophy.
Yeah.
So eating within the hour of waking up,
Mhm.
this helps to reduce the use of cortisol and adrenaline as our energy source. Um, Helps to give us energy throughout the day, sustain our energy, and it helps to burn fat as fuel. So it kind of triggers to our brain, hey, we're awake. It's time to burn fat as fuel. Eating every 3 to 4 hours after that. And I only say 3 to 4 hours because it's actually more like 3 to 5,
Mhm.
but you have to train yourself.
Mhm.
So I think most people are so used to grazing or snacking or not even realizing that there's not a lot of time in between meals that we try to get them to make sure they're eating a full meal. When you're retraining the brain every 3 hours metabolically, the system might start to feel hungry again. Um, by the time you're used to it, 4 to 5 hours, especially closer to menopause. Because you told me your demographics. Mine are actually a little bit older than yours.
Yeah.
It's more like 35 to 65. And I always
Yep.
feel like our 55 and up, we're teaching them how to use Zoom and like
Yeah.
click on links and stuff like that, which is great.
Which is
So
great.
eat every eat for within the hour of waking up every 3 to 4 hours. That after that, always combine your macronutrients.
Mhm.
So I think certain macros get flagged as being the villain or the demon when reality is we need all three. So we need a certain amount of carbs, a certain amount of fat, a certain amount of protein. And generally speaking, and what I teach in the feel good philosophy way is 50% carbs, 25% fat, 25% protein. Just keeps it really simple. Also, the measurable visual of that is 50% carbs, 25% protein, and 25% fat. Because remember, fat is twice as nutrient dense as carbs and protein. So it carries more calories per gram. So it looks like less when it's actually more. Eating 5 different colors a day. I remember when I said this, I was like 22 years old, and it kind of was like a Holy Spirit moment, like 5 different colors a day of fruits and vegetables. Why? The phytochemicals, the phytonutrients, the antioxidants. We need the variety without the pressure of 7 to 9 servings. Like I just always thought that was really unreasonable.
Right.
Like I didn't know a single person, unless they were fully vegan, that was getting that. But when you look at it from a macros perspective, and then you add in the colors, it's like doable. And then maybe even adding fiber into the macros perspective and getting, that 30 gram a day target of fiber, it helps to give us like better visuals and understand the purpose of it. Whereas like 7 to 9 grams, okay, for what? Move your body how it feels good. I don't know what stage of hormones you're in your life stage, but
I am in
as we
the
go,
3rd trimester of pregnancy. So
you are,
crazy,
yes.
crazy like this. That's where I'm at.
So moving your body every single day in your 3rd trimester is intuitive.
Yeah.
You know
Exactly.
you need to move around. You know you need to go for walks.
Yep.
Maybe even can lift a little. So one of the things that I always try to hit home with my community is that we have to feel good from our exercise,
Yep.
just like we do our food. So often people are trying to do what so-and-so did to get really fit rather than doing what their body needs to get fit. So that's a huge part of the philosophy. And then drinking half your body weight in ounces of water. The craziest, freest thing is hydration that people tend to just overlook.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot to unpack here, but I want to dive into first eating within an hour of waking up. So I think, what is your, perspective, feedback on fasting? Does fasting ever play a role in your programming for a time like
Yes.
menopause? How do you think through fasting for women?
Yes. This is a great question. And I love unpacking this question because
Yeah.
there's obviously different schools of thought around fasting. Like I said, I primarily work with women and kids. Um, I have never seen women's labs have good outcomes with morning fasts. However, extended fast, like you're saying,
Yep.
dinner to dinner, um, dinner to dinner, or moving dinner up or removing dinner, I'm seeing incredible benefits for women to really break that metabolic code. And now, I don't want to override some amazing experts in the field,
Right.
like Dr. Mindy Peltz. She is a true expert on fasting. And if you have all the time in the world to follow her protocol to a T
Yep.
during your different stages of cycle and hormones, then by all means. I just don't know a lot of people. Like personally, I have 4 kids. I have a business.
Yep.
Like I'm not going to be able to change the way I eat every single day of my life. So consistency is my key.
Yep.
So yes, intermittent fasting can play a role. I like to reverse it though. I don't think it's helpful for women to intermittent fast in the morning as it is for them to intermittent fast at night, because a lot of times we're going to bed without being in a restful state. We're still digesting. Our stress is high, and we're having a hard time getting our body into the correct circadian rhythm. And I found that if we go to bed in a rested state, having digested our food, so it takes like 2 hours to digest food, at least. Later in the years, menopause, it takes a little longer.
Yeah.
So giving ourselves that 4-hour window is life-changing.
It's so true. And it's hard to do. It's one thing we've been working on. And it's really more so because of having little kids right now and getting them to bed earlier. Honestly, it's not a personal thing. I wish I could say that I'm that disciplined.
Yeah.
But eating and it's hard with work as well. I mean, it's really hard. There's so many aspects which I want to dive into of modernity that are headwinds working against us. But when you look at when we eat dinner, it's like eating, unless you are in Europe and you're literally up until 2 a.m. moving around and doing things, right? And waking up at 10 a.m. But the kind of more American getting up at between 6 and 7, let's just say, eating at 7 or 8 at night is not good. And
or after dark period.
yeah, that's such a good point, is if you could move dinner up and then prolong the fast even from the late afternoon into the morning. I think it's a much more sustainable and realistic way to look at it.
It is. And then if you look at food from an energy perspective, you don't need a lot of energy to go to sleep.
That's right.
But
Right.
you do need a lot of energy to run your day every morning, because men, unlike women, get a 24-hour hit of testosterone.
Mm.
We don't get that. We don't get that surge.
Yeah.
If we don't get that, what are we using? We're using cortisol and adrenals. And I'm sure you had your own, journey with that,
Yep.
just like I did.
Yep. The other thing that you hit on, which is exercise. And there's so many, similarly with food, but there's so many trends in exercise, whether it's, soul cycle, right? Like the cycle, the soul cycle,
Mhm.
Pilates and yoga, which I think Pilates and yoga are like much more holistic longevity type of
Yeah.
exercises. So they'll always kind of be around. But there's always different trends. And then these other trends, whether it's saunas, cold plunging, all these different things.
Mhm.
And the way that they're marketed to us is that they're great for everyone and everyone should do them. But
Yeah.
your philosophy is that there's certain exercises that feel good, and those are the exercises you should do.
Mhm.
It's not a one size fits all approach with exercise.
Mhm.
How do you think through that? And maybe what are some of the things that are trends or fads that you think really we should pause and consider before we all just jump on the same exercise or fitness fad?
I do think most of what we're seeing that seems trendy is not really trends. It's some of it's ancient.
Mhm.
And I know you talked about wanting to get into Ayurvedic. It's hard not to
Yeah.
when you're talking about like wellness trends, because Ayurveda invented saunas in caves with fire and the minerals that were coming off of the rock in the cave. Um, Fast forward today, what's made sauna seem trendy is that people are getting it in their homes.
Yeah.
Well, that's because the price adjustment. We now can get them in a blanket form, infrared, for $600. So it's accessible.
Yeah.
So just because something is accessible doesn't make it a wellness trend that may or may not last. Same with PEMF. So PEMF, when it was coming out, or these PEMF systems, pulse electromagnetic fields. So this is physics. This is bioenergetics.
Yep.
It used to cost like $30,000. You'd only use it in a clinic. Well, again, now it's 1,200. It's accessible in the home. So people are building these home wellness clinics, and some people are like, just eat the right foods, just fast, like just do that. That's so trendy. Or red light therapy used to cost $40,000, $50,000. Now it's 1,000 or 300. If you have those small portable devices. Obviously, when you're dealing with wavelengths and things that are on a spectrum, you want to make sure that it's top notch and
Yeah.
it's been studied and it's
Yeah.
like it is what it says it is. I don't buy that stuff on Amazon, just saying.
Yeah.
Same with supplements. Like,
Yeah.
while one thing is amazing for one person, it might not be amazing for another person. It's similar to superfoods. Avocado is a
Yeah.
superfood for most people. Some people have histamine issues. They don't do well with avocado. So what is I'm trying to think of something that's like a legit trend that I'm just not on board with. I guess, supplement wise, colostrum. I just think it
Interesting.
is such a trend. Um, because a lot of people that are working through health things are needing to cut back on dairy, for one thing.
Right.
And this is a dairy supplement. It's coming from cows.
Yep.
And I'm not against it for everybody. I think it's got great human growth hormone factors. I think it's really good for kids in certain hormone stages.
Yep.
But I just think it's like one of those trends that everybody jumps on, but it's like a tier 3 supplement, right? So
Yeah.
we have tier 1 supplements, which are foundational
Yep.
activators. And then there's tier 2, when the body's not completely responsive to the tier 1, where we might need some more minerals. We might need extra vitamin C. Can you tell I'm really passionate about this?
Yep.
And then we have the tier 3, the stuff that the influencers get a big kickback on.
Yep.
And that's what everybody buys. And then they want me to work it into their protocol. So when it comes to wellness trends, I feel like it's the tier 3 supplements that I'm just like, what?
This
As
is
far as like,
this is so good because people don't understand this. And I want to dive into this for a little bit because I own a supplement company and it's
yeah.
frustrating.
Probiotics are tier 1, okay?
Well, I want to ask you why, but it's really frustrating. But I want to break this down for people that are listening because I don't think they understand this still fully. We have incorporated and by the way, it's a quality versus quantity, right? So you really need high quality versus high quantity. There's this
Exactly.
notion that you just need to take all this stuff, quantity, quantity, quantity. Americans were great at this. Like the more the better. That's not the case. And the same thing with like
Right. It's ruining our guts and our livers.
right. So like probiotics, right? There's this race on how high can you get the CFU count, which first of all, most consumers don't even know what that means, which is problem number one, right? CFU is a count of bacteria, right? So it's the quantity of bacteria. But if you're just putting 100 billion low quality bacteria into your body, it doesn't matter. It could be
Right.
more harmful than helpful. You don't know where it's coming from. There's no traceability. It's really, really bad. The problem is, to your point, the tier 3, you mentioned this, so I'll go into it, is that there's supplements that are $60, $70, $80. I'm not going to name names. You can guess, but they're really expensive. And the reason why is because there's built-in opportunity and margin for other people
Yeah.
to sell them to you and make money. And so again, it's the business. And so you have to understand that. But I think as a consumer, it's really good just to know at least pause and ask yourself, why am I taking this? Is this the right quality and the right price point? I will obviously be hyper biased because I created all of ours. You can tell the right price point and the right quality from our product line. You know, somewhere between $25 to $40 is probably right. But you'll also see we're not, a brand that uses a ton of influencers for these different things. And there's reason for that. So it's just so you brought it up. And so I don't normally go into that in that much detail, but I do think it's so important.
Well, and I will say too, I mean, to piggyback on that and to be completely transparent is I have affiliate partners.
Yeah.
And the reason I do is because I'm sharing these products all the time anyways.
Yep.
I don't ever partner with anybody and I never have because my integrity, to protect my integrity is everything to me.
Yep.
And so if I ever speak about a product, it's because it's usually tier 1, sometimes tier 2. You'll almost never see me talk about a tier 3 product. Now, occasionally I'll allow them in protocols, but I'll never promote them because I just think it gets people off track.
How do you, sorry, just because we're on this, how do you define tier 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah. So tier 1 is foundational and activators. So when I talk about activators, I can basically decide the protocol based on symptoms, but most of the time it's general, like an active multi, which doesn't look like a standard multivitamin, right? It's an activator. Generally omega-3 and generally probiotics. So these 3 things are the starting point. Now, if you're somebody who has iron or red blood cell issues, we're going to automatically put B vitamins in there. So B vitamins can be part of a foundational protocol. And then magnesium often gets brought into foundational. And then sometimes enzymes get brought into foundational. Outside of that, everything else is tier 2. Not everything else. So there's tier 3 too. Outside of that, after 30 to 60 days, if we run more labs or just go based off of symptoms, there's still some issues going on, right? So at that point, we might do some drainage support, cell support, mitochondria support, or if we know something's deficient based on functional labs, like a mineral, we'll add the specific mineral blend in. Because again, minerals, so important, can be really foundational, should be getting from our food or, our electrolytes. Huge problem in the body though, if we're deficient. So we're going to add those tier 2. Tier 2 is kind of like fixing the body after it's been activated. What else do we need to kind of fix the body? Tier 3 is the fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the stuff that we just want to try.
Yeah.
It's botanicals. Herbals, I would say, are tier 2 and sometimes even tier 1. If somebody's body is too stressed to detox, we're going to probably do an herbal approach to that. I teach all this in my membership, so it's hard to break it down when I'm not talking to somebody that's used
great.
to
It's just great. I haven't heard anyone break supplements down into different tiers like this. Obviously.
So I feel like tier 3 is the colostrums. It is the ashwagandhas, God forbid. It's the dim. It's the, the fun stuff.
Yeah.
The thing that's going to fix it all.
A lot of people turn to supplements because of deficiencies. So what are some of the biggest deficiencies that you're seeing? And what are the most common deficiencies that you would say people really need to pay attention to?
So the two that I see people constantly treat as a Band-Aid approach is the iron and the vitamin D.
Hmm.
And what I mean by a Band-Aid approach is they see it low, so they take it. They don't dig to why it's low. They don't dig to maybe like with vitamin D, metabolic pathways or Dutch testing can be really helpful, or oats testing to understand the metabolic pathways. Um, More is not more, as you're saying, with the CFUs and probiotics. And same with iron. Like if a pathogen is stealing your iron and you add more iron, you're fueling the pathogen.
That's right.
If a pathway for vitamin D is broken and you're putting more vitamin D in, you're stressing the system. It's like you're adding water to a full bucket. Does that make sense? Or you're feeding, again, pathogens. From a root cause perspective, I see so many people super deficient in B vitamins.
Mm-hmm.
And B vitamins are super synchronistic with each other, but we're learning more about B vitamins and genetic predispositions. So like the MTHFR gene, this is not a rogue thing. This is legit. The way that our bodies methylate determines a lot of things. But for one, the biggest symptom anybody comes to me with is energy issues.
Yep.
So what's stressing the body? What's stressing potentially the adrenals even that are causing these energy issues? So from a root cause perspective, most people that are coming to me are going to get some set of B vitamins. I'm going to be checking homocysteine levels and CRP levels if I have access to that to determine like which B vitamins we want to do.
I want to go back. Let's dive into the Ayurvedic side of things, because this is one thing I've heard you talk about that I haven't heard, frankly, other nutritionists talk about. And it, to me, is so interesting. It springboards into more of the spiritual and emotional as well that I want to talk through. But let's start with, what is Ayurvedic medicine? Why is an ancient medicine so important, and why do you incorporate it into how you think about treating, clients and helping people in 2025?
So I've always called myself a mind, body, and spirit nutritionist. Which is the holistic approach.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes people think of holistic and they think of medicine that works for the whole body, but the reality is we are a mind, we are a body, we are a spirit. So take that side of things. So I've always been using, different aspects to my practice to evolve the human body, the human experience, so to speak. The nutrition clinical side of things is people come to me because they want their body to change, their physical body to change. In order to change the physical body, we have to understand the physical body, right? Most of us did not do well in biology. And honestly, they don't teach a whole lot of human biology. It's more about animals and plants, which is so beyond me. But even physics, like nobody even realizes that the human body is physics. Like it's, again, beyond me. Why are we learning about light bulbs and electricity when our own human bodies have so much physics? So Ayurvedic kind of brings the nature of the whole thing I teach, right? But it's also the clinical, like the different body types. That's why I adopted Ayurvedic into my practice. And I don't focus on it as a whole, like that's not my whole practice at all. But in order to understand how your physical body can change, what the potential of your physical body is, you have to nurture the elements of your body. Mm-hmm. And so when you talk about like what's trendy, what's not, well, a cold plunge is the one that went viral, so to speak, on a podcast interview, because I told the host that she shouldn't cold plunge because she's a Vata body type. And she was like, I knew it. So for Vata body types, the cold plunge would be a trend that they would want to stay away from. And the Vata body types are the very thin. Their body types their elements are air and ether. And so they're light and they tend to run cold. They tend to have thyroid issues. They tend to have, anxiety and nervous system dysregulation because of the elements of their body. And so why would you stress a body with this extreme cold that's already stressed?
Yeah. So true.
So that's a trend but a Pitta and a Kapha can cold plunge every day. Mm-hmm. The Pitta is fire and water. And so they're dense. They need to chill out. I'm a Pitta.
Yeah.
Most business owners are Pitta.
I'm probably one of those as well.
So the fire and water make for really good driven
Yeah.
executive type people.
Yeah.
And all body types can be that type of person too, because we're
Yeah.
all tridosha, but we have a dominant. And so when we nurture the dominant, like you say, taking personal responsibility for
Yeah.
what your body is and what it's capable of, when you nurture that with the free things, meaning like who should take warm and hot baths,
Yep.
and applying who should apply oil before the bath and who should apply it after.
Yeah.
So vatas can maintain the moisture in their body because they also tend to be super dry
Hmm.
by applying the oil before they bathe.
Hmm.
So that's another very unknown thing. It would just be like a minor, cheap, inexpensive change. And then eating certain foods. So I keep saying Vata because I feel like the Vatas are the ones who people think they aspire to be.
Yeah.
This long, lean person, but they have no idea the struggles.
Yeah.
Like they don't get to eat raw fruit without digestive issues.
Yeah.
And us pittas, we can burn through that fruit. It's no
Yeah.
big deal. We have zero issue with fiber. Um, but pittas do need to eat more cooling foods, like
Mhm.
seasonal fresh food
Yep.
and less like rich oils and just kind of like lighter to chill us out.
Mhm.
And then the kapha, I always say the kapha is the most flexible. It's also like how a personality trait is like a golden retriever. They're like the loving ones, the ones that give of themselves and constantly give of themselves so much that they neglect themselves.
Yep.
And then it catches up really fast. It's a slow but fast like process for a kapha. But like going back to nurturing and free things, pittas and vatas should not work out on an empty stomach
Hmm.
and first thing in the morning because we already have the oversensitivity on our nervous system.
Hmm.
Like changing a workout time for Pitta and a Vata to 9 to 1, which I know is not, again, in our American culture, that's not like an acceptable time to break your work. um, and a kapha is super flexible. A kapha can work out in the morning and before bed. But even if I watch a game, if I'm not even playing the game, I have trouble falling asleep
Yeah.
because it like makes me
Wired.
so intense, wired.
So a couple of things. I mean, one thing that I like about the Ayurvedic philosophy is personal responsibility. And I think this is an area that, it's not to add more pressure to anyone, but some pressure and some stress, frankly, is good, right? Not all the stress that we have. But when it comes to nutrition and wellness and everything that we're talking about, there is a reality and an honesty that we have to have with
Mhm.
people, that they have to take personal responsibility. And you can't just blindly take different things and follow a fad diet or whatever. Part of my goal with having, this forum and these podcasts and discussions and everything, as someone who owns a supplement business right now, is to say that you can't supplement your way out of taking
Mhm.
responsibility for your health and wellness. It just won't work. Like, it will not work. You will take the
Mhm.
products and you will not see a difference if you don't also act alongside of it. And so I don't know if you have a philosophy or feedback on personal responsibility and how you really encourage your community, who you're working with, your audience. But I would love to talk about that as well, and just kind of the encouragement there, but also the honesty.
Yeah. So every quarter, generally, we do like a self assessment, a quiz,
Mhm.
kind of to see where our body and our mind are at. And it helps bring awareness to the person. So, like inflammation, for instance, because that's our current topic in my membership,
Yep.
we did an inflammation quiz because I think people think you can see inflammation. Well, for going back to the Ayurvedic body types, you can't see inflammation on every body type. You can only see it on two of the body types and sometimes only one of the body types. And so we have to be aware of other symptoms of inflammation.
Mhm.
And going back to the personal responsibility thing, I'm obviously going to ask people like what they eat, send your food log or whatever, but like, are you using meditation? Are you walking after your meals to regulate your blood? You have high blood sugar, your A1C is
Mhm.
creeping up. Like, are you walking after every single meal? So these tiny notions of personal responsibility are super helpful. I will say in my community, I have to actually talk people off the ledge. It's more like,
Mhm.
You're doing great. Give yourself some grace. You don't have to be like a lot of type A people
Mhm.
that are like perfect or nothing,
Yeah.
And so I do feel like a lot of the wellness community is like so driven, constantly thinking about optimizing to the point where it's like, give yourself some grace. Life happens.
Yeah.
The goal is consistency. Consistency pays interest. That's what I always say.
Mhm.
Um, the more we're consistent, the more that the days that we can't control won't affect us. And so going back to personal responsibility, what are the free things that you can do? Are you hitting your water goal? Are
Mhm.
you moving your body how it feels good? Are you, I know food's not free necessarily, but everyone has to eat.
Yep.
Are you balancing your macros? So like one thing at a time, I always teach people is the most important thing is a regulated blood sugar.
Mhm.
Hands down, it's going to be the driver of all metabolic disease. And I don't even think people are aware, like PCOS, we started talking about,
Yep.
the research is showing it starts metabolically,
Yep.
you know? And then metabolic issues start with the gut and
Mhm.
start in our gut health. And so it's all interconnected. And I guess I'm getting off track here for personal responsibility, but
No, that's a
it all makes
perfect
sense.
it's a perfect segue, and, I do wanna get into PCOS and some hormone PCOS gut-related, discussions in just a
Mhm.
moment, but I'd love to kind of unpack how you think about the spiritual and
Mhm.
emotional side of our bodies, because our bodies are a temple, and we are
Yes.
called to steward our bodies, and,
Mhm.
there is just a lot of this, and especially with women, but everyone, women and men, but specifically with women, moms, those that aren't moms, that is spiritual. And
Yeah.
I would love to hear you talk about that.
To start with the food aspect, I tell my community that food is messenger. It's a communication process. So every morsel of food that you put into your body is communicating on a cellular level. It's almost spiritual to restrict,
Right.
right? So we know that there's ways to grow in our faith by fasting, by like if you practice Lent, by restricting certain things, that helps us to grow spiritually. But I think there's some trauma related to restriction.
Mhm.
And what people aren't understanding is that taking trans fats or ultra processed food out of the body that wasn't meant for human consumption in the first
Right.
place, isn't restriction.
Mhm.
And so the spiritual aspect is adopting the philosophy of like how things interact on a cellular level.
Mhm.
It's going to affect the nervous system, which affects the spirit.
Mhm.
So if you're eating, say, gummies because you can, or like, cookies because you
Yeah.
can, that affects the blood sugar, that dysregulates the nervous system, and that makes our spirit feel erratic. To your point on the body being a temple, when we feel good, we serve.
Mhm.
When we don't feel good, we can't serve.
Mhm.
So the simplicity of that, I think, really impacts, the heart of the home, which is usually the mom, the woman.
And it's so important that, we realize this, because obviously there's a whole notion of self-care and there's a whole genre of self-help books, which is great. But and I read them, so don't get me wrong. But when you actually stop and think about it, it's so inward facing. It's so
Mhm.
obsessed with self. And if we flip the script a little bit and we say we need to take care of ourselves, obviously, we need self care, we need to do that, all of that. All of that is really great, because we can't help others if we don't take care of ourselves.
Right.
But the goal of this life is not us. It's not this
Mhm.
vapid, self-facing. That's where you see the eating disorders. That's where you see the
Right.
obsession around all of the calories and
Mhm.
everything else, and it's not working, and I'm still stressed, and I just took this test, and my cortisol's still high. It's a downward spiral. If you think
Yeah.
of it as like, my body's a temple, and I need to respect that. But why? I need to respect the body as a temple to serve others. That's why
Mhm.
we are here. That is,
Mhm.
I've had a couple of guests say this, which is so true, and it's, not a popular thing to say among some circles of women. But what is the woman's body always trying to do? It's trying to survive and thrive and reproduce. That's
And
what our bodies
reproduce.
are
Yep.
trying to do. That's, and if you don't catch that, You brought up this great point about human biology. We don't learn that in school. We're not learning
No.
about hormones and ovulation and everything. So I want to redirect our attention to something that you were saying about kind of metabolic breakdown in the gut. So obviously we're highly focused on the gut here at Daily Nori. That's the business that we're in. How do you approach gut health, and what are some of your core philosophies as far as what people should be eating, how they should be treating their gut?
Yeah, so eating can be pretty intuitive, meaning, like I said, not all foods are superfoods for everyone,
Mhm.
right? So, with the understanding of you're eating real foods, you're combining your macros. The foods that you eat to eat real foods and combine your macros might vary from even your spouse or the
Mhm.
other people living in your house. But generally speaking, our goal is to get, 8 to 10 grams of fiber each meal.
Mhm.
And fiber is going to come from the healthy fats, and it's going to come from our carbs, our fruits and vegetables. Um, so when you're eating 5 different colors and you're eating healthy fat every meal, it's not something you really have to think about,
Mhm.
right? But that's what the gut needs. So a lot of people that start adding fiber, they say, "Oh, I'm bloated. I don't feel good." The other key point, and this relates to your different probiotics
Mhm.
too. Temporary bloating is not a bad thing. It's a
Mhm.
change in homeostasis. So you're not feeling good, which is why you're using the product, or you're making a protocol or making a change.
Yep.
There is going to be a temporary situation
Yep.
that things are turning over.
Mhm.
When you are adding in all of this food for your immune system, the bacteria in your gut, of course you're going to be bloated temporarily.
Yep.
If you can get through those 3 weeks
Yep.
of your body turning over, of cells turning over, of your food getting the nourishment, of your body getting the nourishment that it has needed for so long, then you understand the lifestyle the feel good way.
What are we missing with hormone health? And what are some of the top things that women just need to know about hormone health?
Two huge things. One is we think kids are more resilient than they are.
Mhm.
And when their immune systems are crying out,
Mhm.
when they're getting sick consistently, that needs addressed. And two, we're reactive
Mhm.
instead of proactive. And with little girls, I've learned this because my oldest is 15, my youngest is 9,
Mhm.
about to turn 10 actually tomorrow. Um, is that at 7, 8 is when they might exhibit some changes.
Mhm.
Obviously, that's not when they're getting their periods. I think, you know, like we said, we didn't learn in school.
Yeah.
The period aspect of a female, of a girl, is like the climax,
Yeah.
and all the stuff leading up to it is what needs supported.
Right.
But I think we're super unaware of it. And then we have these like standard um timelines of like, I don't know how inappropriate this is, but like
Yeah.
they start to grow hair, and they
Yeah.
start to get breast buds, and they start to have body odor, and we don't do anything until they get their period. So then by then
Yeah.
it's like too late. The adrenals are already like malfunctioning. The detox pathways are already malfunctioning.
One of the reasons I'm so passionate about gut health and gut health even for children is because you want to try and get as upstream as possible, right? So you want to try and
Mhm.
get again preventative. How do you think about nutrition and things like the hormone health for children?
I always say, like, pay attention to their energy because
Mhm.
that's telling you a lot. Kids seem to run on high energy levels all the time. When that changes is when they need supported extra.
Mhm.
You need more attention to the food they're eating. You need more attention to what time they're going to bed. Maybe some mineral support, that kind of thing. I teach for people starting at age like 1.5 for the kids to eat the same philosophy as the adults.
Mhm.
Obviously, they're going to eat more frequently because their stomachs are smaller.
Mhm.
But that's going in the long run, protecting your blood sugar is going to protect your hormones, all hormones, your stress hormones, your reproductive hormones, all of it. Because, like I said, that starts in the metabolic system.
Yeah.
So I learned from one of my mentors, there's a stress in the body that leads to a breakdown of the nervous system. The breakdown of the nervous system leads to a breakdown of the hormone system. The breakdown of the hormone system leads to a breakdown of the immune system. Nobody contacts anybody until their immune system's breaking down, and then they blame the hormones.
Yep. Yep. And then the kind of knee-jerk reaction when our immune system is weak is to overload on things, or worst case scenario, we've gotten so used to just running into the urgent care and saying, I need a Z-Pack, which is like the worst.
Yeah.
So how do you think about, and this is something, again, we've been spending a lot of time talking about here, which is the gut's role in estrogen metabolism, estrogen detox. How do you think about, from a nutrition perspective, hormones like estrogen? We are seeing, which is really concerning and alarming, an increasing amount of estrogen dominance in the US. We're also seeing a rise in things like polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, which we've mentioned. PCOS is affecting, it's hard to pin down, somewhere between 10 to 15% of women. Most of it's going undiagnosed. And it is right now what's being charted as the leading cause of infertility. So this is something that really, I think, unfortunately, just kind of at the beginning because of the metabolic dysfunction of women.
Well, and it's being communicated that it's not reversible.
That's right.
Which it 100% is.
That's exactly right. How do you think about all of these things and where we're at
Well,
culturally and what we can do?
the starting point is always foundations. Foundations, which is food, movement, sleep. Those are the foundations of the body. It's the only thing the body needs. And so what happens is people, like you said, jump to step 9, 10, 11, rather than starting with the foundations. Eating the principles of what I teach in the Feel Good Way is always the starting point. Eating whole foods from the season that we're in is the starting point. And people say, well, oh, my kid is picky. Well, we have to teach our kids what real food is.
Yeah.
Like, you can't claim picky for fake food.
That's right.
That's just what they have associated with food. So you have to, rewire the system a little bit. I'm not saying that's an easy process, because my problem child is my husband, not my kids. But I am seeing the estrogen issue with late teens, like way more than I ever would have imagined. And these are girls that didn't take the pill. These are girls that weren't introduced to birth control. So it is alarming, and I don't have all the answers, but I do think that step 1 is always starting with foundations, eating to balance your blood sugar, maybe supporting drainage pathways. I like doing this through not adding necessarily to the body, but helping the body eliminate. So like detox baths and sauna. And people always say, oh, is that safe for my kid? What?
Yeah.
You're giving them antibiotics and you don't know if they have a bacterial infection, but you're wondering if clay in your bath is safe. I don't get it. I do have a detox bath that is coming out soon, by the way.
That's awesome.
Because I do think the future of, healing starts with how do we let the body release naturally? Yeah. Like, the body never meant to hold on to so much estrogen, and the immune system is 60-70% in our gut.
Yep.
So the starting point is our gut.
Yep.
So like, how do we fuel our gut? How does our gut feel generally? Like, how, like, tracking your stool, how is your stool formed? Like, that tells us a lot of information about the body.
And a lot of women right now are working, which isn't a bad thing, but there's realities with that, in that, to cook good, nutritious food and to be present, it's not something that you throw into a microwave. It's not something that's easy. You have to restructure your day. And I always say this to everyone, treat it as it is a spiritual practice, because it is.
Yes.
And you have to look at it as, this is quite literally like life force, right? This is fueling our family. It is a life force. And we think about this as well as how much we spend on our food, right? There's a lot of other things that are not worth your money. So with that, there's so many people that would just say, it's cooking for a large family. It's just not feasible. What are your thoughts on that? How do you structure your day and prioritize this with kids?
You said it's a life force. And if I didn't fuel myself this way, I wouldn't be able to maintain and manage my life. I have often asked God, am I still doing what you want me to do? Yep. I never planned to be a working mom. He called me to this kingdom assignment, and here I am. And I continue to show up, but I continue to question it because my kids need 100% of me. In order for me to give them my 100%, I have to feel good.
Yep.
And it all goes back to, why I wrote this book. The whole purpose of my philosophy is feeling good, not just so you can look good, but so you can sustain your life, your work environment, your kids. I automatically make 4 lunches a day. I pack their lunches. I don't leave it to them because I don't want them to not get enough protein or fiber. We're relying on pumpkin seeds right now for a good source of protein and fiber in lunches and snacks. Non-allergenic, or I guess some people are allergic, but it's not a peanut or a tree nut, which is, schools. So anyways, I pack the 4 lunches every day. I make them breakfast every day. I make sure that these are macro balanced. I send them with their lunch and I hope they eat it. Right.
Yep.
I usually have a dinner plan late morning. Right now I have an Instacart order out that's coming any minute from Aldi, actually. So yeah, there are like lower cost ways to do it. I probably do an Instacart or shipped order every other day just so I don't overwhelm my space because 6 large people live in my house that eat 4 real food meals a day.
Yep.
And I don't have the refrigerator space for all that. Or even if I did, my mind doesn't have enough capacity for 7 meals at a time. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So I do 2 to 3 days at a time of food.
Totally. The other thing which you nailed, any kind of economic hacks as a parent, because that's the other thing you hear, right? I mean, I've been interviewed on Fox many, many times, and it's like almost always it comes up of, okay, but how do we get, high quality foods to people at an affordable price? From a grocery perspective, how do you look at that? Are there any things that you found that are still high quality foods and high quality methods that are much more reasonable?
Always buying in bulk is going to be beneficial. So like I do probably a Costco order every week or every other week. I, rice and beans, obviously super economical and super nutrient dense. We're a white rice family personally. We don't do brown rice, which is a more expensive version, unless it's the pasta. We do brown rice.
We're a white rice family too. So
yeah,
I'm with you on that one.
One that's tested high for heavy metals knows what we're talking about.
Yep.
So, Aldi has a ton of organic options. Their bone broth is half the price of, what's the really good brand I can't think of right now? It starts with a K.
Kettle and Fire.
Yeah. Half the price. String cheese, organic string cheese, organic apples. So whatever's in season, you're going to get organic for half the price at Aldi.
Yeah. I am so appreciative of your time today. I wanted to just kind of, as we finish here, if there's anything else you want to share, of course, feel free to, but I'd love to just go into how people can find your work. So the Feel Good Way. So it's simple recipes for a better life, which I love. What would you say, maybe in closing, or some of the easiest, most sustainable health strategies for someone? So if they're just looking for something as a takeaway from this episode, what, obviously buy your book, read the philosophy, but if someone's looking for a few simple takeaways and strategies, what would you say those are?
I would say follow the book because it has the recipes, obviously, and they are easy and they're our best recipes. I have 3,000 recipes. These are the best ones that we have, but I also incorporated the prayer before meal.
Awesome.
And the regulating the nervous system. And I think that's one of the huge keys that are totally missing. It's not just the food we eat, it's the way we eat it. Are we in a stress state? Do we have a screen in front of us? Have we blessed our food? Are we relaxed? Is our nervous system ready to use energy to digest? And so following the book, $20, right?
Yeah.
And it's in most libraries. So no excuses.
Yeah.
I would say I have a product for every price point. So I have my books, I have PDF cookbooks, obviously free recipes on Pinterest. It's only going to get you so far. You have to buy in. I'm not going to lie. I've been in business for 18 years. You have to buy in.
Yeah.
The more stuff I give away for free, the less participation there is. Challenges. I do seasonal challenges, not just for the sake of, getting people to do a 30-day program, but to rewire the body, rewire the mind to shift into the seasonal thinking and using seasonal foods to nurture the dosha by using seasonal foods. The higher level, I have my membership. My membership goes really comprehensive education, wellness, dispelling myths, and really talking through the whole body from a cellular level, from the smallest, molecule in the body to the physical, how we look on the outside. And like I said, I don't promote my individual services because I only take members anyways, because I want somebody to have done my philosophy for at least 30 days before I even try to fix the body.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to the Gut Check podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a comment below. Let us know what you think, like the episode, and share it with friends and family who may also benefit from learning about these important and educational health and wellness topics. You can find the Gut Check podcast on YouTube, also on Spotify, Instagram, and TikTok. The Gut Check podcast is brought to you by our team at Daily Nori. Daily Nori makes probiotic and prebiotic solutions accessible to all because good health starts with gut health. To learn more about Daily Nori, please go to www.dailynori.com. Thank you.